All right, this is Larry. I'm going to call a meeting to order at 7:30. Roll call, please.
Mr. Simons.
Here.
Freehand is here. Mr. Boda. Mr. Patsalis.
Here.
Mr. Horn.
Here.
Mrs. Babel.
Here.
Mr. Blackstock.
Here.
Okay, and also in attendance is Cynthia Paparelli and Ryan Fantuzzi.
Okay, thank you. Would you follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States.
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
One nation.
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Next, we'll approve the agenda. Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda as presented? Hearing none, a motion to accept the agenda as presented. Go ahead, Bob.
I'll move to approve the agenda. I just want to make sure everybody had seen it. It continues on the back side of the page.
Correct.
Okay, so I'll move to approve the agenda as submitted.
Support.
Who was that, please? Horn.
John Horn. Okay, we have a motion and we have a second to approve the agenda as presented. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Simons.
Yes.
Freehand votes yes. Mr. Boda. I'm sorry. Mr. Patsalis.
Yes.
Mr. Horn.
Yes.
Mrs. Babel.
Yes.
Mr. Blackstock.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, moving on to approval of the minutes of March 2nd, 2020 and March 12th, 2020 special meeting. They're in your packet and you can look them over.
This is Angelo, and if there are no additions or deletions, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of March 2nd and March 12th as presented.
I support. This is Debbie.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second to approve the minutes of March 2nd, 2020 and March 12th, 2020 special meeting. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
This is Freehand. Mr. Simons.
Yes.
Freehand votes yes. Mr. Patsalis.
Yes.
Mr. Horn.
Yes.
Mrs. Babel.
Yes.
And Mr. Blackstock.
Yes.
All yes.
Motion is approved. Moving on to public comment. Is there anyone on the telecast that has anything to say that's not on the agenda? Hearing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. C1, year 2019 Marine City Fire Authority run report totals. C2, February 2020 Marine City Fire Authority run report. C3, February 2020 St. Clair Area Fire Authority run report. C4, February 2020 Planning Commission minutes. C5, March 2020 Park Commission meeting minutes. C6, March 2020 Historical Commission minutes. C7, Marine City Fire Authority run report. C8, February Revenue and Expenditure Report. C9, February Cash Summary by Account. C10, February Cash Summary by Bank. C11, February Balance Report. If there's no questions on the consent agenda, a motion would be in order.
Blackstock makes the motion to accept the consent agenda as received.
Babel will support.
All right, we have a motion, we have a support. Is there any further discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Blackstock,
Yes.
Mrs. Babel,
Yes.
Mr. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Patsalas.
Yes.
Freehand votes yes. Mr. Simons.
Yes. Motion carries. We accept the consent agenda. Moving on to disbursements, we have invoices 0, accounts payable of $489,400.34. We have payroll, $68,860.52. We have EFTs payments of $84,823.75. We have a tax account of $15,610.57. We have a total payroll, $22.03. We have a total voided, $2,362.80, for a total disbursement of $656,354.41.
This is Angelo here. I'll make a motion that we accept the disbursements in the amount of $656,354.41.
Babel support.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a support to pay the disbursements of $656,354.41. Is there any further questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Freehand votes yes. Mr. Patsalas.
Yes.
Mr. Horn.
Yes.
Ms. Babel.
Yes.
Ms. Blackstock.
Yes.
Mr. Simons.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. We pay the bills. Moving on to old business, we have none. So we'll move on to new business. Item 1, employee union tentative agreement clerical. These were mailed out to you on the 30th of March in your packets. I only received one question on any of them, and I answered the question. So I guess we're putting it out there. Is there any more questions on the clerical agreement? Ryan, do you want to chime in on anything on that?
This is Ryan. Larry, I don't have anything to add. I did contact every board member should have received a letter from me summarizing these 3 agreements. I suppose I'll just quickly say that at a very high level, all 3 of these agreements close out the pension plan, the defined benefit pension plan, which was the #1 priority of this board. Further, the employees' contribution increases for the pension plan, which would save the township money in the long run. Further, the pension benefit is decreased under these proposals. So those are the pension pieces to this. Of course, there's also wage increases and many other topics that are addressed. But other than, I just want to address the pension issue, and if there's any questions, I'm here and happy to answer them. I'm done speaking.
Does anybody else have any comments on the clerical? If not, I guess a motion to approve the clerical tentative agreement would be in order.
This is Angelo here. I'll make a motion that we approve the clerical tentative agreement as presented.
Blackstock supports.
We have a motion and we have a second to approve the tentative agreement on the clerical contract. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Horn.
Yes.
Mr. Patsalos.
Yes.
Freehand votes yes. Mr. Simons.
Yes.
Mr. Blackstock.
Yes.
Mrs. Babel.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to new business 2, employee union tentative agreement operators. It's basically the same as the clerical on what Ryan had told you about the pensions and stuff, but they have a separate contract. So is there any questions on the operators? If not, a motion would be in order to accept the tentative agreement for the operators.
This is Angelo, and I'll make a motion that we accept the employee union tentative agreement for the operators.
Support. Don Horn. We have a motion and we have support. Is there any further questions on the tentative agreement for the operators? Hearing none, roll call, please.
This is Freehand. Mr. Patsalos.
Yes.
Mr. Freehand votes yes. Mr. Simons.
Yes.
Mr. Blackstock.
Yes.
Ms. Babel.
Yes.
Mr. Horn.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Motion carries on the operators. Moving on to new business item 3, employee union tentative agreement supervisors. It's basically the same thing with the pensions, but there's a few odds and ends on all 3 of them that are negotiated separately. So, is there any further questions on the tentative agreement for the supervisors? Hearing none, a motion would be in order to accept the supervisor's tentative agreement.
This is Angelo. I'll make a motion that we accept the employee union tentative agreement for the supervisors as presented.
Babel, support.
Okay, we have a motion, we have support to accept the tentative agreement for the supervisors. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Freehand votes yes. Mr. Simons.
Yes.
Mr. Blackstock.
Yes.
Ms. Babel.
Yes.
Mr. Horn. Mr. Horn.
Yes.
Mr. Patsalos.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, we signed
Hey,
the
Larry,
tentative
if I
agreement.
Larry,
Yes?
if I could, I want to thank the committee for all their hard work. Angelo, you, Larry, Cindy, all the time you guys put in on this. So thank you.
Yeah, and I'd like to add, this is Larry, I'd like to add that a lot of work went into this, and the employees or the union, they stepped up to the plate too. We did too. In these times, it took us a long time to get this contract settled, but I think in the long run, it's going to be better for the future of East China Township. If anybody else has anything to add, I want to thank Ryan. Ryan did an awful lot of work. Cindy did an awful lot of work. Angelo, we had a lot of work to do with MERS on getting things cleared up. It was a lot. It was a lot of stuff to do. We took a long time to get this. We had to go to mitigating, and that's how we got it settled. But thank you, everybody that worked on it.
This is Angelo here. Likewise, I'd like to thank Cindy, Larry, and Ryan. I think we did a nice job on this. Again, we gave a lot, but we also got a lot. So it was a long process. I do think it's a good benefit for the township. And again, I just wanted to thank all 3 of you for your hard work and dedication in going to this.
Don Horn. I'd like to thank the negotiating committee on the contract. I think it's a good one.
Okay, this is Larry, if there's no more comments, we'll move on to new business.
Larry?
Item 4. Yeah, yes.
This is Ryan.
Go ahead.
Tuesday. of course, it's not my meeting. I just want to thank also you, Larry, and the entire Cindy and Angelo and the entire board for their patience and also their clarity and what their objectives were with this. And congratulations to the entire board. You know, as we talked about, Larry, this is a big deal for the township, and maybe not immediately, but 20 years from now, hopefully, God willing, the future board members will remember this. So thank you all.
And thank you, Ryan.
Yes, thank you, Ryan.
Okay, if there's no more comments on the contracts, we'll move on to new business. Item 4, the signatory authorization for employee pension plans. This goes hand in hand with the contract. That's why it's listed after the contract. We have to make some changes at MERS on the pension plan. They're in your packet. This is authorizing the supervisor to do that. So we would need a motion to authorize the supervisor to amend the MERS plan document, including carving out the clerical employee division to be consistent with the 3 collective bargaining agreements with the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 324.
This is Freehand. I'd like to move that we authorize the township supervisor to amend the MERS plan documents, including carving out the clerical employee division, to be consistent with the 3 collective bargaining agreements with the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 324.
Babel support.
We have a motion and we have support. Is there any further discussion on the authorization for the pension plan? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Simons,
Yes.
Mr. Blackstock,
Yes.
Mrs. Babel,
Yes.
Mr. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Patsalis,
Yes.
Freehand votes yes. All yes.
Motion carries. We authorized to sign the employee pension plan. Moving on to new business item 5, resolution 4-2020, right-of-way permit for M29. This is something we have to get done before we can do any digging along M29. We've done this in past years, but we want to have this all done if we decide to go with that sewer line at that high-pressure bypass. I guess the action recommendation, approve resolution 4-2020 MDOT performance resolution relatively to sewer bypass work on M29 and Francis Street.
I would, this is Freehand, I would make a motion that we approve resolution 4-2020 MDOT performance resolution relative to the sewer bypass work on M29 and Francis Street, to include the following positions are authorized to apply to the department for the necessary permit work to within the state highway right-of-way on behalf of the governmental agency. That would include the supervisor, Larry Simons, and township manager, Cynthia Paparelli. I don't think we need to read the entire resolution. This is a standard resolution that MDOT requires. So I made the motion.
I'll support your motion.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion and we have support for the right-of-way resolution 4-2020. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Simons,
Yes.
Freehand votes yes. Mr. Patsalis,
Yes.
Mr. Horn,
Yes.
Mrs. Babel,
Yes.
and Mr. Blackstock.
Yes.
All yes.
Motion carries. All right, moving on to new business, item 6. Policy amendment for check writing between board meetings. Bob, do you want to explain that?
Just very briefly, we currently have a policy, and I attached, this is Freehand, We currently have a policy that was approved by the board in 2011, on August 15, 2011, that specifies the procedure and the types of checks that can be issued in between board meetings that are then confirmed by the board. There are occasions, emergency situations, and we've run into it, particularly as we're dealing with COVID and the preparation of payroll checks and things of that sort. What we felt was appropriate to include, to amend the existing policy to accommodate instances where payment is needed for regular employee payroll in between the regular board meetings. And you have on the proposed policy amendment, you have the language change that are in, says in instances where payment is needed for regular employee payroll in between regular board meetings, payroll checks are prepared in the usual manner, and that's done by the bookkeeper through the clerk's office and the treasurer's office and the bank, and it's based on verified timesheets, so nothing gets generated until an appropriate timesheet is submitted. And then a summary of the payroll checks issued is included in the payroll section of disbursements for approval by the Board of Trustees at the next scheduled meeting. This basically provides, it's a practice that we currently have in place. The auditors have approved that, but this spells it out in policy in more detail. And so I'm recommending the changes in the existing policy to show the language that I have included on the sheet that you have. And this would go into effect immediately if approved by the board.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Is there any other questions on this policy, this amendment on the check writing? Does everybody understand what we're doing?
Yep.
If there are no questions, then we need a motion to adopt the amendment for check writing between board meetings.
I'll make the motion. This is Freehan. I'll make the motion to approve the amendment to the policy concerning checks issued for payment prior to board approval in between township board meetings to include the language for regular payroll checks as shown on the attached document. The amended policy would go into effect immediately if approved by the board tonight.
This is Angelo. I'll support that.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a support. Is there any further discussion on the amendment for the check writing between board meetings? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Freehan votes yes. Mr. Patsalis.
Yes.
Mr. Horn.
Yes.
Ms. Babel.
Yes.
Mr. Blackstock.
Yes.
Mr. Simons.
Yes. Motion carries. Moving on to new business item 7, Resolution 5-2020, authorizing township manager to institute temporary staffing procedures and temporary decisions regarding essential operations and critical infrastructure. We feel we need that because there's, we're trying to keep our attendance at the township hall at a minimum to keep less exposure to our employees. And there's decisions that have to be made. Sometimes you just can't reach out. So this would be during the COVID-19 virus thing. So until that's over. And the action is to adopt the resolution.
I'll make a motion that we adopt resolution. This is Freehan. I'll make a motion that we adopt resolution 5-2020, authorization for the township manager to initiate temporary staffing procedures and temporary decisions regarding essential operations and critical infrastructure.
This is Horn. I'll support.
So we have a motion and we have a second. Is there any further discussion on this?
You want me to read it? This is Ryan. Do you want me to read it?
If you want to, Bob.
Okay, I'll read this one. It's relatively short. Whereas Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer has declared a state of emergency and issued emergency executive orders limiting workers' activities to decrease the spread of the COVID-19 virus, and whereas the governor's emergency orders have permitted workers to be on the job for essential services and to support critical infrastructure, and whereas the East China Township manager needs the flexibility to immediately adjust work schedules for all employees to protect their health and the health of their coworkers while providing continuation of essential services for the health, welfare, and safety of all township residents. Now therefore be it resolved that the East China Township Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the township manager to adjust Township and St. Clair River Sewer and Water Authority employee work schedules and to make decisions regarding local essential operations and critical infrastructure during the duration of the state of emergency as necessary to maintain employee health and safety, as well as the health and safety of the East China Township residents. Such adjustments and decisions will be shared with the township supervisor and the employee union as appropriate. This resolution will become effective upon adoption by the Board of Trustees.
I would just like to add that we've done quite a bit of this already. We had to do it. It was kind of we want to keep half of our employees safe, so we have them if the other ones that are working were to get sick, and that's how we're operating now. But the office staff, we're juggling the schedule every week, and Cindy's doing a great job of that. We did work with the union on it too, on the original. They helped us lay out how we were doing the 2 plants and the DPW. So it's a good thing, but we need this so she can make the decisions right on the fly while she's there. So any other discussion on Resolution 5-2020? Hearing none, roll call, please.
This is Fran. Mr. Blackstock.
Yes.
Ms. Babel.
Yes.
Mr. Horn.
Yes.
Mr. Patsalas.
Yes.
Mr. Freehan votes yes. Mr. Simons.
Yes, motion carries. Moving on to new business number 8. Cancel boards and commission meetings except the township board. I think this is working quite well how we're doing this telecom tonight, and I think we should continue to have our board meetings every 2 weeks like this. So we need a written motion to cancel all these commissions so it can go in the minutes. We actually cancel them. I cancel most of them, except for the Sewer and Water Authority. They have to do their own. So
This is Freehan. I might mention that I did talk to Cindy Boda, and since the Parks Commission operates independently, and they're actually using Zoom to conduct a meeting tonight, a special meeting, so they're using telephonic procedures, but they made that decision. I also talked to Ralph Knotts, and he's contacted all the people in the Sewer and Water Authority, and they know about cancellation of the meetings, and they're able to operate as necessary using the procedures that they have in place. So what this recommended action is to cancel the other ones, the Planning Commission, Zoning Board of Appeal, and Historical Commission for the months of April and May. The Board of Review is not included because they don't normally meet during April and May.
okay, thank you. So does somebody want to make a motion to cancel those meetings?
This is Horn.
I'll make
Cancel them.
This is
Go ahead,
Fran.
Mr. Horn.
Did I move that we cancel the meetings. The Board of
Blackstock.
Review, but the Planning Commission and the other meetings.
Mrs. Freehan, was there a second?
Yes, Blackstock will support.
We have a motion and we have a second to cancel boards and commission meetings, all except the township board meetings. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. Babel,
Yes.
Mr. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Patsalas,
Yes.
Freehan votes yes. Mr. Simons,
Yes.
and Mr. Blackstock.
Yes.
Motion carries. Moving on to new business 9. Resolution in support of the Corrective Action Plan, PA 202. This has to do with MERS and the state. We had to come up with an action plan, how we're going to get our funding back up. We dropped below the 60% percentile. And a lot of this we've been holding off on this until we ratified the contract, because there's a lot of things in the contract we're hoping will make our look a lot better, including the $225,000 over 3 years that we're going to pay up front, and the employees' contribution to MERS, the pension, the cost of living on the pension. So there's a lot that's going to go to that action plan. And Cindy, her and Ryan worked on that action plan. I'd like to thank them. Or do you have anything you want to add on that action plan, Cindy?
No, I think that Ryan's attachment summarizes everything that's in the former pages. I don't have anything else to add. Ben?
Does everybody understand what we're doing? This is a form that we have to submit to the state, and it's basically, you can read it. I don't know if we have to read that resolution.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 6-20. This is Freehan. I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 6-2020, PA 202, approval of underfunded MERS corrective action plan.
This is Angelo here. I'll support that.
And we have a motion, we have a support to accept the resolution to support the corrective action plan PA 202. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Patsalas,
Yes.
Freehan votes yes. Mr. Simons,
Yes.
Mr. Blackstock,
Yes.
Ms. Babel,
Yes.
all yes.
Motion carries. We passed the resolution. That's all we have under new business. Moving on to announcements. I guess all I want to do is say that follow the governor's plan to stay at home and stay safe and try not to get out any more than you have to. We've had a lot of restructuring of the township hall and both our plants. The township hall is locked. We have employees coming in and getting the necessity work done, payroll, water billing, and all 3 departments or 4 departments are doing that. We're not issuing any building permits right now. What we're doing with the building permits, if you want to apply for one, you can apply and we can get the groundwork done, as long as we don't have to go into the township hall, if we can do it all electronically. We don't want our inspectors out there inspecting. Same with our DPW. We don't want them going into houses or any of that type of stuff. So far, the first week or 2 that we've had this has worked pretty good. I want to thank Cindy for handling all that. But we're all working from home. I mean, I'm on the phone quite a bit. I know I'm talking to Cindy a couple times every day. I've talked to different board members. So we do have a lot. You know, we're still operating the township, I believe, sufficiently. So that's all the announcements I have. So I'll move on to member comments. Mr. Freehand?
Yes, I would just like to, somewhat of an announcement, and just a reminder to everyone that the April 21st remains the deadline for nominating petitions to be filed April 21st by 4 p.m. nominating petitions for positions on the Township Board or on the Parks Commission to be on the August primary ballot. There is some question whether or not this particular deadline is going to be extended, whether or not the primary date is going to be changed or not, but at this point, that date still remains, and the petitions need to be submitted, and the affidavit of identity needs to be submitted for anybody interested in being on the ballot, in a partisan ballot for the August primary. Those can be submitted to the county, or they can be submitted to us at the Township Hall, and the way they would be submitted to the Township Hall would be by appointment, and anyone can make an appointment by emailing Wendy at eastchinatownship.org. She is serving as the deputy clerk in this capacity, and anybody can do that, make an appointment, and submit the petition signature, the petitions at that particular point, as well as the affidavit of identity. If there is and all of that will be posted on the front door of the Township Hall. It's also on the website, or will be on the website. So, but if there's any change in that date, we will also post that on the Township Hall front door as well as the website.
Okay, thank you. Is that all you had, Bob?
That's all I have. Thank you.
Moving on to Mr. Vasalis.
I just want everybody to be safe, stay in your houses, and let's see if we can get beyond this. It's going to be a long process. Looks like they might even extend it out a little bit more today. I mean, tomorrow they're talking about it. So just want everybody to stay home, stay healthy, and stay safe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Horn?
Yes, I'd just like everyone to stay home and stay safe. That's all I have tonight.
Thank you. Ms. Babel?
Yes, I commend everyone that has worked so hard on everything during this difficult time, and it shows that we've all come together and we are working towards a good goal, and I hope everybody stays healthy and safe.
Thank you. Mr. Blackstock?
The same. I agree with what everybody said, so just stay safe.
This is Freehand. If I can make one additional comment, I'd like to thank everybody for participating in the meeting and putting up with some of the confusion initially. But I think the telephonic meeting, this will work well. It seems to have worked well tonight, and following the same procedures, unless anybody has. And if anybody has any suggestions on a different procedure and how I get information to you, if you could just address that to clerk at East China Township, just send me an email if you have some suggestions on how you would like to receive information on the telephone numbers, because they will change for every meeting. Please let me know.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Cindy, do you have anything to add about the day-to-day operations or how we're doing, or?
No, just that it changes every day.
Yeah.
That's about it. Hanging in there. Everyone's really pulling together as a team. Very positive attitude. Everyone's doing 110%, and the attitude is cooperative.
Good, good. I'd like to add that, we are doing a lot of changes there. There's a lot of things that you don't realize that happen automatically, like the assessor coming in, the sheriff coming in, cleaning people coming in. You don't, you don't realize what goes on in that township hall every day. It's pretty busy, and until it pops up, then we and myself and Cindy have addressed, I think, most of them now after we got through the first week or so. I think we've got them all handled. But if anybody has any input or anything at the township, give me a call or give Cindy a call, and anything we can do to help, if there's residents or whatever, we'll reach out to them. But other than that, that's all I have. So I guess a motion to adjourn would be in order.
This is Babel. I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting at 8:12.
I support.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a support. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify. Oh, we got to do roll call. Roll call vote.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Freehand votes yes. Mr. Patsalos?
Yes.
Mr. Horn?
Yes.
Ms. Babel?
Yes.
And Mr. Blackstock?
Yes.
Thank you for all bearing with me on the roll call votes.
Yeah, we are adjourned. I want to thank everybody. I don't know if Ryan's still on there or not, but thank everybody for getting through this first telecom. I think we did a great job on this. I think everybody worked out really good. I'm glad we had a rehearsal there last week. So, all righty. Thank you. I guess we're signing off now.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you.